That's House Speaker Mike Johnson giving remarks on Capitol Hill, blaming President Biden and Democrats for the failure of his standalone Israel aid bill that did not pass the House last night. Johnson also called the failed impeachment vote for Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas a setback, saying democracy is messy. Johnson has said that Republicans will hold another vote to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary after last night's vote failed. Now, that happened after 3 Republican congressmen voted no, and 1 Democrat actually rushed to the floor from the hospital to vote against the measure. The Senate is also set to hold a key test vote on a bipartisan immigration and foreign aid bill. Now, Republicans are backing away from that deal after former President Trump called on them to kill it. Speaker Johnson has already said that bill is dead on arrival in the House. I want to bring in ABC's Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill for more. Jay, you were standing right there as the House Speaker was speaking. You even asked him a question yourself. He's saying, you know, listen, politics is messy sometimes. This is how the messy sausage gets made. But he's promising that the job will be done here. What does that look like, and can he deliver?
Well, one of the key questions he got, Diane, was why bring this to the floor if you didn't have the votes? That's a question that Republicans, frankly, asked themselves, some of them who supported this Mayorkas impeachment resolution after the vote last night. And it's interesting because Johnson kind of head-faked towards what his political calculus was, which he said, and I'll read his remarks directly for you. Quote, "Sometimes people show up when they're not expected to be in the building and change the equation. That seems to be an acknowledgement of the fact that Al Green of Texas, a Democrat, a reliable no vote, was in the hospital. He was getting surgery, and so his no vote wasn't there for Democrats. So the 3 Republicans who had indicated over the course of the day that they were also going to vote against impeaching Mayorkas if Al Green was out wouldn't have been enough to tank the resolution." And what happens at the last minute? Well, Al Green shows up. He's pushed in a wheelchair. He's wearing hospital scrubs and compression socks, sources tell us, and his last-minute no vote tanks the Mayorkas impeachment resolution. So the question becomes, was Speaker Johnson counting on Green not being there, and that's why he brought this to the floor for a vote? Or did he think he could flip one of those no votes in his party into a yes vote on impeachment? It's unclear, but the reality here is this is an embarrassment for a fairly new Speaker of the House who made this a priority. The further right of his party, particularly Marjorie Taylor Greene, had said that this is something that they wanted for a long time. His response to all of that, as you noted, Diane, he said that this is, quote, a setback, but he said it's messy.
Messy is for sure. He said it's a mess, but we're cleaning it up. Jay, meanwhile, this bipartisan border deal in the Senate is facing a test vote today. What are you watching for there?
Well, I mean, there are kind of 2 votes that we have to watch for. The first vote is on the entirety of the package. So it's the deal that was struck and released over the weekend that the Senate is going to vote on, which includes funding for Ukraine and funding for Israel, and also those wholesale changes to U.S. immigration policy that were a product of bipartisan negotiations. That bill is going to go up for a test vote, and it's expected to fail because Republicans have turned against this bill in the last few days, including Mitch McConnell, who supports the deal that was struck, but said the political will just isn't there in his party to get this over the goal line. The ground had shifted beneath his feet politically, he acknowledged, over the last few months while those negotiations were playing out. Then there's expected to be a second vote that has just Ukraine and Israel aid and aid for Taiwan, which was included in that original package, but not those immigration reforms in it. Watch to see what that vote looks like. There's an expectation that that could pick up some pretty significant Republican support because Republicans in the Senate are largely behind that. And you heard Speaker Johnson get the question earlier, does that jam you up in the House and force you to potentially put that bill on the floor? Because Johnson has been skeptical of Ukraine aid in the past. And so the question becomes, if that does ultimately pass in the Senate, it's just a test vote today, but eventually it would come for a general vote. If that does pass in the Senate, what does that do for Mike Johnson? Because it's up to him as to what bills reach the House floor for a vote.
All right, Jay O'Brien on Capitol Hill. A lot to keep track of, Jay. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.